I think you're on, Elaine. Hi, Ian. Hi, Elaine.
Hi there. Hi, Struan.
Oh,
I'll be
sorry.
very
Oh, I meant to put Straw first. Never mind. Go, Elaine.
okay. Yeah, that's okay. I'll be very quick because I think you're running short of time, and I must say that Prue would have been delighted at all the effort you've gone into for putting on this celebration of her life under such circumstances. But I'd just like to say I'm delighted to be able to say a few words about Prue, whom I knew as Joan. And I suspect that Struan and I are probably the only participants that knew her as Joan Milligan. And she was always Joan to our family. But she was extremely important to our family. I come from the Milligan side of Prue's family. Her father was my grandmother's brother. My mother lost her father in 1908 when she was only 4. Uncle Jim, Prue's father, moved in as my grandmother's boarder to provide both moral and economic support and lived there until he married Joan's mother, my great aunt Prue. Uncle Jim was the father that Mum never had. Actually, years later, when we were living in Levin and Prue's father was struck by a car and died later in hospital, we traveled to Wellington in a taxi that was unheard of in those days. We did not own a car, and Mum just had to be there as quickly as possible to provide support. Prue was very highly thought of by the Milligan family. Her parents were older when she was born, and they thought she was just the most marvelous child they were lucky enough to have, and she was. She was a devoted daughter, and as Jess said, and I think Janet mentioned as well, after her father died, moved her mother up to Kerry and looked after her for many years. I always thought that Martin was just wonderful, as it's not easy having a member of your wife's family living in your home. Prue's greatest joy was her children and grandchildren. When I visited her, she loved to talk about their exploits. Her next joy was her life as an educator, which she shared with Martin. She would love to talk about the plays she had helped her students produce, and I'm sure that she was a wonderful teacher. After her retirement, she took great joy in teaching English as a second language, and she would tell me all about her students and how hard they were working. In her later years, she used to reminisce even more, and she'd tell me all about the recitals that she and Martin had produced on radio in New Zealand when they were living down south. My father thought the world of Prue, and vice versa. After Mum died, Prue would arrive, her sleeping bag in hand, and visit with Dad and stay overnight. As Jess mentioned, when she was about 12, she was sent down to the Rye Valley to stay with Mum and Dad because of the polio outbreak. She managed to come down with chicken pox, and she told me that Dad would spend hours with her in the evening, keeping her entertained. I think that they cemented a very close relationship then. I should add that she was also the flower girl at Mum and Dad's wedding. After my sister Joy died in the Erebus disaster, she took great interest in Joy's 3 children, who at that time were only 2, 4, and 6. She always wanted to know what they were up to, and even came up to Canada for Kerry's wedding here on Vancouver Island. She then packed her backpack, booked herself on the Greyhound bus, went through to Alberta because she just had to see the Rockies, and booked herself into the youth hostel to stay there. I always loved having long conversations with Prue and with Martin when he was alive. I mentioned that Martin had bad health. We lived in Regina in the middle of Canada, where it gets 40 below in the wintertime, and he insisted that I go into the bay and get him some ear muffs. Of course, this was summertime in Canada, wintertime back there, but he was finding it so hard on his ears when he went out for his walks. And so I always had lovely, lively conversations with Martin. In later years, when I was visiting my sister's second daughter, Heidi, in Wellington, I would walk over to the Rita Angus home and knock on her door. This was even after she was having a few memory problems. She would always know who I was, even unannounced, and then she would settle in for a trip down memory lane over a cup of tea. Prue was a highly intelligent woman, a very gracious individual, and a very caring person. I will miss our chats, and I will miss Prue. Thank you very much, everybody.